there are places we do not find on any map. Places not made of stone or soil, but of thought, emotion, and memory. Carl Jung, one of the greatest minds of modern psychology, warned us not of external enemies, but of the internal landscapes that slowly eat away at the soul. These are not just bad habits or flaws, they are psychic environments, realms of consciousness where the self loses its clarity, dignity, and direction. Jung understood that suffering is offering, is offering, is offer. There are places where suffering becomes self-destruction, and from which no growth can come. Here are 7 places the soul must never dwell, according to Carl Jung's psychological and philosophical teachings. 1. The house of denial, where the shadow is rejected. Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. In Jungian psychology, the shadow is everything within us that we refuse to acknowledge. It includes our anger, envy, selfishness, sexual desires, fears, traumas, and even our buried talents and hidden potentials. It is not inherently evil, it is simply unknown. Denial, therefore, is not just a refusal to face external truths, it is a rejection of parts of ourselves that feel inconvenient, shameful, or dangerous. And when we deny the shadow, we unknowingly be it. We unknowingly be it too. Sabotage our own relationships, project our flaws onto others, or lash out with emotional intensity. We don't understand. This is what Jung meant when he said the unconscious will direct your life. You will keep encountering the same patterns, the same heartbreaks, the same failures, not because the world is against you, but because your shadow is leading you blindly. To dwell in denial is to build a house of mirrors where you see distorted versions of everyone, but everyone, but nev. You do distorted versions of everyone, but nev is full of toxic people when in fact you're reenacting unhealed wounds. You blame others for your failures, not realizing you've handed your power to a part of you that you refuse to confront. What makes denial especially dangerous is that it feels safe. We tell ourselves that to look inward is to lose control, to break down, to fall apart. But Jung believed the opposite, that facing the shadow is the beginning of true control, true strength, and true healing. When you can true strength and true healing. When you slay, you split. I don't love war. For poor true strength and the soul and evoke true strength and true healing. When you glide course, toro the both little old white sentence. Manipulated by your unconscious, you no longer erupt in rage over small things. You no longer chase people who don't love you. You no longer feel the need to please everyone or hide behind a mask. Instead, you become whole, not perfect, but real, human, grounded, self-aware. Jung called this process individuation, the integration of the conscious and unconscious parts of the psyche into a unified self. And it begins with courage, the courage to admit you're not as nice. Pretend to be. So when you feel jealous, don't deny it. Ask why. When you feel hatred, don't mask it with fake kindness. Trace it to its roots. When you feel rage, don't suppress it until it explodes. Listen to what it's trying to tell you, because the shadow that is seen is no longer in control, but the shadow that is ignored, it waits, it watches, and eventually it will act for you against you. Do not build your home in denial. Do not exile your truth. Go into the V. You've buried, and speak to them, not to shame them, but to understand them. Only then do you stop living your fate and start living your truth. 2. The swamp of resentment where pain is never transformed. Carl Jung believed that suffering, when consciously examined, could lead to profound transformation. But when suffering is buried, denied, or repeated without reflection, it furs into something darker: resentment. Resentment is pain that has turned into poison. It about how we were wronged, betrayed, forgotten, unloved. It feeds on repetition, and like a swamp, the longer we stay in it, the harder it is to move. Everything gets heavier, slower, stuck to dwell. here is to carry old wounds as your identity. You might find yourself saying things like, this always happens to me, or people never change, or they'll regret how they treated me someday. In that moment, you are not healing. You are hoping your pain will vindicate you, but resentment never punishes the one who hurt you. It punishes you. You begin to close off, trust less, love with suspicion. You might even become the very thing you resented. Bitter, cold, cruel. The victim becomes the mirror of the offender. Jung taught that this is how the shadow sneaks in by convincing you that your pain makes you righteous and therefore your anger is sacred. But in truth, ang to pain is ang injurious and terrorist. But in truth, angi we and you at the as you could get that all pure is and you were very zoo. In truth, ang you are sacred, but in truth, ang forgiveness in Jung psychology is not about letting someone off the hook. It's about breaking that chain. It is a radical act of reclaiming your energy from the past. It means saying, this happened, it hurt, but I will not let it shape the rest of my life. Transforming pain doesn't mean forgetting it. It means making meaning from it, finding the lesson, the strength, the boundary it taught you to hold. Jung called this alchemy of the psyche, turning emotional leads into gold. So if you find yourself in resentment, pause, ask yourself, am I feeding this or freeing myself from it? Because the swamp will always offer you a place to lie down. But don't mistake that stillness for peace. 3, the prison of guilt and shame, where the self is condemned. There is shame. Guilt says, I made a mistake. Shame says, I am the mistake. Jung saw shame as one of the most dangerous emotional states, not because it's dramatic, but because it's quiet. It hides in the corners of the psyche, whispering that you are unworthy, unlovable, unfixable. People who dwell in this inner prison often appear functional. They work hard, smile in public, achieve success, but inside they carry a silent belief that they are fundamentally broken. No achievement feels enough. No love feels deserved. No forgiveness, even from love. Inside, this is the tragedy of shame. It doesn't just make you feel bad. It disconnects you from your own soul. It tells you that you must become someone else to be acceptable, even to yourself. Jung believed that real healing begins not with perfection, but with self-acceptance. He did not encourage indulgence and wrongdoing, but he warned against eternal self-punishment. The psyche needs space to evolve. It cannot do that in a cell of constant self-judgment, of noble. It is self-destructive. True remorse leads to growth, to repair, to responsibility. But shame, persistent, unyielding. Shame leads to paralysis. And so Jung invites us to confront our inner judge, to ask, whose voice is this? Where did I learn that love must be earned, that I'm not enough as I am often? This shame was planted in childhood, in religion, in trauma, in comparison, and yet we carry it like law. But you can choose today to begin unlocking that prison, to let it define your worth. Your mistakes are not your identity. Your past is not your destiny. The soul was never meant to live in condemnation. Its natural home is growth, not guilt, freedom, not fear, self-respect, not self-rejection. And if you want to heal, you must be willing to look yourself in the mirror, not to find flaws, but to offer compassion. As Jung taught, only by embracing the whole of ourselves, light and shadow, can we ever truly be whole. The we ever truly be whole. Abandon. Carl Jung introduced the concept of the persona, the social mask we wear to navigate the world. It is the version of ourselves we present to be accepted, admired, or protected. But while the persona is necessary for functioning in society, to dwell in, it is to lose yourself. The theater of persona is the place where performance becomes identity. You start with a mask and then forget it's a mask. You smile when you want to cry. You agree, express yourself, but to maintain approval, and slowly, without noticing, time. You vanish, your true self, your desires, your pain, your creativity, your chaos is pushed into the unconscious. You become a character in someone else's story, playing a role in a script. You didn't write. Jung warned against this because the soul does not thrive in pretense. The longer you perform, the more distant your inner life becomes, and eventually you will feel exhausted, numb, or even depressed. Meaningless, but because your life is not your own. In this place, authenticity is not just absent. It's dangerous. To show your true self would risk rejection, but Jung believed that no one can become whole without facing that risk. Individuation. The path to psychological maturity requires us to remove the mask piece by piece and ask, who am I really? Leaving the theater of persona is not about rebelling against society. It's about remembering your soul. It's about reclaiming the voice you silenced, the dream you postponed, the values you buried. Because no matter how admired your mask becomes, if it does not reflect your truth, it will never feel like love. It will feel like loneliness. 5. The labyrinth of overthinking, where the mind becomes a trap. The human mind is a brilliant tool, but Jung warned that when Jung warned that when winds of you have a maze, a place of endless loops, a prison of analysis, a labyrinth where thought never ends and truth is never found to dwell. Here is to mistake rumination for wisdom. You think and think and think, trying to solve your pain with logic, trying to control the future with prediction, trying to undo the past with imagination. But the more you think, the farther you drift from clarity. Jung emphasized the importance of intuition, symbol, and the speak in rational language. He knew that healing and meaning often arise from the irrational depths, not the logical surface. But in the labyrinth of overthinking, the heart is silenced. The body's signals are ignored. The soul's voice, soft, intuitive, symbolic, is drowned in noise. Overthinking feels safe because it gives us the illusion of control. But in truth, it is fear wearing the mask of intelligence. It keeps us stuck in decision paralysis, emotional numbness, and spiritual disconnection. Jung would say, do not solve life, feel it, dream it, live it. Because the soul doesn't speak in formulas, it speaks in metaphors, images, feelings, silence. To leave this labyrinth, you must learn to trust again, not just your logic, but your instincts, your inner knowing. You must be willing to act even if you don't have every answer. You must stop replaying the past and start inhabiting the present. Wisdom is not knowing everything. It is knowing when to stop thinking and start living. 6. The desert of isolation. Where can I? Adnan. Where can I? Bentley. The desert of isolation. Where can I? Den Slainsel Subluf Leheris. That modern psychology echoes today. The soul does not heal in isolation. It heals in relationship. But there's a place many wounded people retreat to, a psychological desert, vast, empty, dry, safe, but lifeless. This is the place where you convince yourself that you don't need anyone, that people are dangerous, that love is a risk you cannot afford. It feels empowering at first. No expectations, no disappointments, no betrayals. But slowly, the silence becomes unbearable. Like exile in this desert, vulnerability is the enemy. You become overly self-reliant, emotionally guarded, and deeply skeptical of intimacy. But what you are truly avoiding isn't other people. It's the parts of yourself that feel unworthy of being seen. Jung would remind us we are wounded in relationship and we are healed in relationship. Shadow work, trauma recovery, self-discovery, they are all necessary, but we do not become fully human until we can see, imperfect, real, still worthy of love. To remain in isolation is to live without mirrors, without the sacred friction of connection, without the challenge and joy of being known. Yes, connection opens us to pain, but it also opens us to joy. And the soul was not made to survive alone. It was made to belong. 7. The graveyard of the past. Where the present is abandoned, there is a final place. Jung warned against the graveyard of the past. It is where people go when they are unable to let go of guilt. Revertly right here. It is where people go when they are unable to let go of guilt, deceptive. It feels sacred to mourn, noble to remember. But to live there is to stop living at all. You become a ghost, wandering through memories, reliving wounds, trying to resurrect what has already died. The mind replays what could have been, the heart clings to what was lost, and the present moment becomes a blur, ignored, unlived, unloved. Jung believed the psyche is always calling us toward wholeness, and wholeness can only happen now, in this moment. But if you are Finn, that open in front of you, letting go does not mean forgetting. It means honoring the past without becoming it. It means learning to say goodbye, not just to people, but to versions of yourself that no longer serve your journey. There are lessons in the past, but no life, no new breath, no forward motion. So if you find yourself walking through this graveyard, kneeling before old heartbreaks, replaying old betrayals, pause and ask yourself, what am I keeping alive that no law lost? Am I keeping alive that no law, no, and M's that no law. Forgive, bless it, and leave it. Because life, Jung said, is not found in clinging to what was it, is found in becoming who you are meant to be, here now, fully awake. So leave the places that shrink you, step into the space where your soul can breathe, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, but now.